Okay. All right. So before we get started, just some house rules. I've already muted everyone's microphones except for our speakers, and I'll also make sure once they start that their mic is also unmuted. But again, this is a question and answer type session. I'll be asking our speakers today different questions and have them weigh in, and you'll be able to also ask them questions at the end. So we just want you to make sure that you wait to give your questions at the question and answer session towards the end of the webinar. And then we'll open up, you can either write your questions in the chat box or you can get on the mic and we can hear your question there. And also, we are recording this event, so if you do miss it, we will be sending that out to participants so they can rewatch it at a later time. I also want to know who all is here in the audience. So if this is your first time or if you're a reoccurring audience member, we want to know where you're from and if this is your first time. So if you'd like, you can go ahead and write in the chat box first timer, what state you're from, and then we can see who all is in the room. All right. Yes, welcome Haley. She's one of our speakers today. She's coming from Texas, Florida, South Carolina. Ooh, Virginia Beach. Ooh, I'm from Chesapeake. Florida, Cleveland, South Carolina, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Colorado, South Carolina, and Val. Yay! Hi, Val, from Virginia. Awesome. All right. Okay. So yes, we like to just see who all is coming to our events because we have schools all over the US and most of our employees are remote. So I work in our headquarters, which is in Herndon, Virginia, as well as one of our other speakers that I'll be introducing you to is also from Virginia area as well. So let me go to our next slide. Before we introduce the speakers, I just want to give you a brief bio of K12 and who we are. Just for those who this is your first time, you may want to know, well, who is K12? So K12 is the nation's leading provider of online curriculum and support services, and we support from grades K through 12. And families use the K12 curriculum, learning programs, online public schools, online private schools, and blended schools. So we were started in 2000, and the K-12 team, we've developed a program that's designed to exceed national and state education standards. And our goal is basically to provide children with an education that is comparable or superior to that provided by the nation's best public and private schools. And our headquarters, as I said before, we are in Herndon, Virginia, which is about 25 miles from Washington, D.C., which is our nation's capital. And we have about 5,000 plus employees. And we have a couple hundred that are here at headquarters, but most of our employees are, they work remote. Now, as far as our mission statement, we help students reach their full potential through inspired teaching and personalized learning. And our values are we make a valuable impact in the lives of our students and their families by embodying passion, accountability, courage, and trustworthiness, which is, you may have seen in the title, why I had the spelling, the lowercase I-M and P-A-C-T in all caps, because I was trying to embody our values. So our speakers for today, we have Haley Bunnell, and if I pronounce your name wrong, please forgive me. She's a world history teacher from Texas Virtual Academy in Hallsville, and that's in Texas. Our other speaker is Sean Taylor, who actually I work with. He is on my team, a part of the People Experience team. He is another recruiting operations specialist. And we also have Shannon Koja, who is a leadership trainer and with Talent Development Community, which is TDC. All right. Before I get started, what screen do you all see right now? Do we not? I want to make sure I see everyone's screen. One second. Hold on. Oh, it's just showing webinar is there. Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing and start it again. 1 second. Okay, what are you seeing now? Are you seeing a screen that says questions?
Hey, Drea, we can see what brought you to K12.
What brought you to K12? Great. Okay, let me go back. Okay, do we see our speakers now?
We do.
Okay, great. Okay, before I go to the first question, let me just let you see who our speakers are again. We have Haley Bunnell, who's a world history teacher from TVAH, which is Texas Virtual Academy. We have Sean Taylor, who was a part of my team, who's a recruiting operations specialist, and Shannon Koja, who is a leadership trainer with our training development community. All right. Thank you for letting me know that the screen wasn't moving. Okay. Okay. So again, as I said before, we're going to make the questions like a panel style. So I'll give a question and I'll have each one of them to answer it. But before I do that, if the speakers just want to introduce themselves, and then we'll go into the what brought you to K12. So whoever wants to start, Haley, if you want to go, or I can unmute.
Sure.
Awesome.
Can you hear me? Can you? Okay, you can. Okay, awesome. Okay. Yes, I'm Haley Bunnell, and I am a world history teacher for TIVA, which is Texas Virtual Academy of Hallsville. I started with K12 just a little bit over a year ago. I started as an English 1 teacher last spring, and then at the end of the spring, I basically begged everybody who would listen to me to please let me move back to my passion, which is history, especially world history. It's my entire career. It's my forte. And I had some amazing administration that were happy to let me become part of the world history team.
I'm in my webinar meeting right now.
Thanks, Haley.
Sean, did you want to introduce yourself, or Shannon?
Hi, yeah, this is Sean Taylor. Hi, I'm a recruiting operations specialist here at K12 at our corporate offices in Herndon. I do, as Drea mentioned, work on her team, the People Experience team. I will say that I've been with K12 now going on, actually, I started as a contract employee and went from that to full-time employment. And I've been here actually almost for a total of 2 years now.
Thank you, Sean. And Shannon, let's hear from you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Shannon Koja, and I am a leadership trainer for the talent development team, and I'm in South Carolina, and I've been with K12 since 2008. And I have been both on the corporate side, on this virtual school side. I was a virtual school sixth grade math teacher at Wisconsin Virtual. I've worked in a lot of different, I even worked for a private international school overseas in the Middle East. So I've been kind of everywhere. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So we'll start off with our first question. What brought you to K-12? And Shannon, since you said you started back in 2008, how about you start us off?
Oh, yes, we have to go back in time. I was lucky enough, I worked in a virtual school in Arizona. I was living in Arizona, and I worked at a virtual school, and it wasn't a great one. And my principal had left and went to K-12, and she said, "I'm stealing you. I need you here. We just opened an international school, and you're perfect because I've lived all over the world." And she's like, "We would need you." And so that's what brought me to K-12, and I have been here ever since. And side note, that person is already like a director VP level at K-12. She's been with K-12 the whole time too. So it's been a great journey so far.
Awesome. Sean, what brought you to K-12?
Oh, well, honestly, I was probably the furthest away from any form of being anything that has anything to do with helping people in their education. I was in the entertainment industry for 11 years. And what brought me to K-12 was really, at the end of the day, I felt like I wasn't contributing to society really. And I heard of this company from a colleague of mine, and I did some research and I saw just what this company is about and how they teach the individual student versus doing blanket teaching. And I honestly, I wish I would have known about it back when I was in school myself, because I would have loved it. And once I realized what exactly we do here and the impact that these teachers make in their students' lives, I knew I had to come here.
Thanks, Sean. And Haley, what brought you to K-12?
Okay, so my story is it's different than a lot of people's. To be a little, just to make it short, I actually have a blood disorder, and it's not curable. And I discovered it. I was diagnosed during my third year of teaching in a traditional school. I did chemotherapy. Everything was not curable. So there's a lot to it. I went through a lot of hard times having to just deal with this disorder and the stress and the demand of being in a traditional school setting. And if you want more specific information, I can explain it. But it ultimately, in the spring of 2017, I finally had a second hematologist tell me, either you change your career or this job is in all literal sense going to kill you. And it was just from the stress and the demand of it. And when I was told I would have to do chemotherapy again, because I just kept sacrificing myself to the job, I knew I had to finally choose myself. I loved teaching. I had such a passion for it. I loved my students. I couldn't imagine leaving, but when I say a job was killing me, it's not in a metaphorical sense. So I had to resign at the end of the 2017 school year. And it was hard. It was hard doing that. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was terrified. And I had now finally had to accept that any job was going to be hard for me to have to deal with due to this particular blood disorder, because it can rear its ugly head at any time, and it can truly physically almost incapacitate me. And I found K12 on LinkedIn, and I realized that not only was virtual school kind of the school of the future and a necessity for several families going into the future, but it was a necessity for me as well. As an employee, I needed to be able to work in a safe environment where I could take care of myself and be more rested if my blood disorder was rearing its ugly head and keeping me down. But I can still teach. I mean, I can still be a teacher. I can still be making that impact. I can still have that interaction, and I love it. And when it's getting me down, and on the days when I used to walk into a school looking like I needed to turn right around and go into a hospital, now on those days, if needed, I don't have to work from my little office. I can work from bed if needed. And so many of our students are in the same situation. You know, they have a condition or something's happened and they can't physically go to a school anymore, and they don't deserve a quality education any less. Same thing for as an employee. It's not best for me to physically go to a school, but that doesn't make me any less of a teacher. And K12 has given me this platform to keep doing my passion, but to not have to sacrifice myself, and to not have to do chemotherapy again, because I get so bad from sacrificing myself.
Thank you so much, Haley. And that, I think that really embodies like our values of passion. And I'm glad that you were able to find us so you can continue to educate students. And like you said, there are students that may go through same issues, medical issues, and they may not be able to be in a brick and mortar school because of what they're going through. But for us to be able to provide another avenue where children can still get a quality education, that's amazing. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm sure in the chat there are other people that may have stories as well. All right, I put myself on mute. I got so excited. I'm sorry. Our next question moving forward, and I think some have already said, was how long have you been with K12? And Shannon, you said you started with us in 2008. Is that correct? 2008. And Sean, you said you've been here over 2 years, right? Right. And Haley, you said you've been here with 1 year. Yes. Awesome. So it's good that we have a range of tenure. Okay, so if you could go and talk about your current role, just what you're doing now. I'll start with Shannon, since I know you may have been in a different role when you started here, but if you could just talk about, what you did in that role and what you're currently doing.
Sure, yeah. So when I started, it was right the first semester of our international school, our private school that we have. So I started in 2008, and at that point, I supported K through 8 students, and I supported them all over the world. I mean, I was in every time zone you could imagine. I was supporting these families, and it was really exciting. When we talk about innovation in the school of the future, I mean, that's what we definitely were, and are and continue to be. From that role, I moved to, I've had 3 kids now, babies, now they're older, but at the time they were babies, and those time zones were killing me. So with the flexibility of K12, which is something I really kind of wanted to stress when I was talking today, is how flexible and how many different avenues you can go down and different opportunities there are. We had an instructional services team, and that team branched off from the international school, where I started supporting startups like new schools. I would be a substitute, or I'd come in for maternity leave, or I would be a teacher because they haven't gotten enough teachers for the school or hired enough. Pilot programs I would work on. I did all kinds of neat stuff. And then we actually moved back over to the Middle East. I lived there prior, and we moved back. And so I worked for their Dubai school, K12 Dubai. And I was there for a year. And then I moved back to Wisconsin. I've been everywhere. They always say, where in the world is Shannon? And in Wisconsin, I was a math teacher, and I loved every moment of it. but I had an opportunity to work for a program called National Math Lab. And it was like a remediation tutoring program for math for the nationwide, supporting every school under K12. And it was really exciting to be a part of that. From that place, I moved to an instructional coaching position, and I supported Central Region, Northern Region, Southern Region schools. Yes, I do. Dubai to Wisconsin. I mean, I've seen it all the weather patterns. And then I moved from instructional coaching to a leadership trainer. So what that means is I'm working with leaders of schools now, and I get to support them with training, PLCs, asynchronous and synchronous training opportunities. I just get all kinds of neat things thrown in my lap. I work with teacher, leader ambassadors, teacher mentors. I love every day of my job, and and you never know what's going to happen. The flexibility and the differentiation from everything you do is just exciting here at K12.
Awesome. Thank you. Haley, would you like to talk a little about your role? I know you said you started teaching one subject and now you are teaching world history, correct?
Yes. So I have several different certifications. It's good for marketability, and because I'm just one of those people that I just love to teach. I do. I just love to teach. Even if it wasn't my forte, give me a textbook and I will teach those kids, because I mean, I love to learn along with them if needed. But I am teaching world history. It is an absolute passion of mine, and it's so much fun in a virtual setting, because for years I've told my kids about needing to become a global a global citizen of the world. We're connected now. There's nothing really separating us, and it's really interesting because it's virtual school, and it brings that whole idea together that we're a global community. I understand I teach for a Texas school, but I really teach a global community, even of our students that have moved in, and if they might be from different countries or their families are. So I love the level of just uniqueness that this platform has brought, just teaching world history in general. As a teacher, my duties consist of, yes, we have duties every day that we need to do, and certain contacts that we need to do. But ultimately, my focus gets to be just on the kids. The majority of my time is spent focusing on my students. And I know in a brick and mortar, sometimes the biggest complaint we have is, I teach 6 or 7 periods a day, and when am I supposed to fill out this paperwork? And when am I, I can't just drop my class and do something else. And what's awesome in a virtual setting is there is a schedule, there is instructional time, but there is specifically set apart time where I can offer private tutorials, where I can answer emails, where I can do what I need to. I spend more time actually serving students in this platform than I ever did as a brick and mortar teacher, at least not individually. Like, they had just class time with me and that's it. Now I can do more outside with them, especially our special education students, 504 students, especially the new ones who come in, they're just as lost too. They need a little extra help, and somebody who's willing to hold their hand. And it's great to do it. And it's fun, this platform of just the interactivity that you can have online, letting them contribute, letting them go find unique things online to post in class, or videos that you can show them. And sometimes time constraints, just like in brick and mortar school, you think, oh, I just wish I had more time. But the brilliant thing is I can schedule more time, and I can record my lesson. So if a student is absent, they can watch it. I mean, it's not the same as the interactivity, but they can still watch it. Brick and mortar school, when you're absent, you're absent, and you can't replace that at all. And it's really great, and I love the opportunities that it's opening to me as an educator, and it's challenging me. It's challenging me as an educator how to make things more interactive and more student-centered a little bit, and not to just completely let go of my responsibilities as a teacher, but to really let these kids explore their own learning and take control over it and feel proud. I feel proud for doing it because they got to contribute something to the online classroom. And for those of you who are thinking of applying to be a teacher, I'll tell you, one of the greatest things is a student that might have been really quiet in your brick and mortar, and we all have those stories of, oh, this one kid, they won't talk, they won't do anything, they're just so shy. What's great is when you have those same students in your online classroom, but because they don't have to be on camera, because they don't have to have eyes on them, their personalities just explode, and it gives them a freedom too. And it's just a great environment all around in terms of learning. For those that really embrace it, it's great. I can't think of another word. Great, awesome. I need a thesaurus. There's so many possibilities for these kids, for teachers, for everything else. And I think what I also like is that if for some reason we are rushed, if we do have a lot of duties that we need to do, if we do have a lot of things we need to be turning in, what I love is the flexibility of I get to choose when I do it. If I want to answer emails in the morning and later after class, I can do it. If I want to do my paperwork more towards the end of the day, I can do it then. I don't have just a 30-minute conference only set at one time when it's not necessarily always the most convenient or productive for me. I get to make my day productive as a teacher, and I love it. I'm very time efficient. I love to be efficient. My administrators can attest to that, and I love the fact that I get to control my efficiency.
Awesome. Thank you. Sean, why don't you tell us a little bit about your role on the corporate side?
Of course, absolutely. As we've mentioned, I'm a recruiting operations specialist, and a big part of my role is actually coordination and helping with events to find teachers like Haley. And I get to travel a lot, go to these events and talk to a lot of people. And it's always so funny because teachers are the most passionate people you'll ever meet. I have not come across one that comes in, they're always got a smile on their face, ready to go, ready to talk, they're excited. Other than that, though, I really get to help our recruiting team on a day-to-day basis. I get to sometimes get the joy of calling teachers and asking them to interview with us. Always fun. Like I said, you're always so excited. You're the greatest, nicest people I've ever met. And I do a lot of day-to-day, there is a lot of data tracking and stuff, part of my job. It's not the highlight of it. Getting to go out and talk to teachers and help the recruiting team get people through our door and ensure that you guys have a good time in the process is what I love about my job. And it's what I enjoy most about our job. I think Drea can speak to it. When we're out there on the road is some of the best stories we have about our job.
That is correct. I'll I guess piggyback just a little bit, Sean. As far as the event piece, it really does. I would say for me, it grounds me in what I do, and constant reminder of, we're looking for great talent to, service the students that we have at our schools. So, I've had the opportunity of traveling and going to different schools. I've actually been able to go to Texas Virtual Academy for a fair last year and got to meet a lot of the people that work there. So building that connection with different people that I normally just see through email, just seeing their name. So putting a face to a name is always great. And I think that also is my highlight for my role, as well as doing this type of event, like speaking to you all on this webinar. So moving right along, let me go to our next question. Yes. So before we open up for other questions, what advice would you give to current K12 employees that are here? Like if you had, words of encouragement or whatnot, what would you give to them? And Haley, you can start us off.
My advice to current K12 employees would honestly remember that self-care is just as important when working from home as it is in a building. Just because being at home may be better for you or benefiting you, don't fall prey to sacrificing your health just because working from home is inaccurately labeled as being easier. Because For those of us who are working in this format, we know that's not always true. It's not always easier. There can be days where you never leave your computer, but don't sacrifice yourself. It's just as important to take care of yourself in a building or if you're working from home.
Shannon, what would you give advice to our current K-12 employees? What would you say?
I think my advice would be to dream big, because this company, I have seen it since 2008 grow into so many different and amazing things. And I feel like, yeah, Stephanie, you said you've been here for 15 years. I've got to know more about your story, but um, dream big, because there's so many different avenues for you to go. I did my master's with K12 through Northern Arizona. I'm doing my doctorate right now. It's a very uplifting company. And if you, put in the work and put in the effort, the sky's the limit, to be perfectly honest. So dream big, innovate. This is the place to do it. It's supportive in that matter. I mean, everyone encourages it. And I can't wait to hear who's new and who's growing here with K12, because it's really exciting to watch.
Awesome, thank you. And Sean, what would your advice be?
The funny thing is I echo Shannon, even on the corporate side. Being in recruiting, you'd think your next steps is going to be a straight recruiter for me. But for people at K12, for instance, we've had teachers step out of the classroom. They go on to be recruiters. We've had people who have been in recruitment go into marketing. Really, K12 values its employees, and it wants the best for you and your skill set. If you think you're in the wrong position, talk to your manager about it. You will be amazed at how much support this company has for you.
Awesome. And I would also just piggyback and say, with advice, I would include to be flexible. I've been here almost 3 years in May to June, almost 3 years. And I would definitely say just be flexible. I know this company, there's so many new things that we've done, and I know Shannon can attest as to the different roles that she's been and the opportunities that she's been able to have. But I would definitely be flexible, and there's different pathways you can go. Again, like Sean has said, if there's another role that you're thinking about, talk to your managers. I know we have employee resource groups where we're able to talk to different people within the different departments. We have our mentorship program. We also have an internship program. So there are different things that we offer at K12 that you were able to work alongside with. I would definitely add to that advice to be flexible. So our next question would be, what advice would you give to potential K12 employees? And whoever would like to start. Jump in.
I'll go ahead. Oh,
You go.
okay. That's virtual for you guys.
Yeah.
For potential K12. Well, I'm noticing in the chat some great questions already, and I think that would be my advice. Ask questions, really, inform yourself on what the job looks like. I can attest, because I'm in the training world now, there are so many great resources out there and videos, and teachers like Haley and just so many other people out there willing to share their stories and their experiences. So just asking questions and finding out more and making sure this is the right fit for you, and it's something that you're excited about in a place you want to move to. That would be it. Just ask questions and find out and inform yourselves.
Okay, well, I actually was also going to say, you really make sure you ask questions, but from a different angle. If you do become a new K-12 employee, don't be afraid to ask for help with with all of the technology that's involved in it, the platform and everything, it does not matter what age group you fall in. There's none of this, oh, I'm too old to learn this. Absolutely not. Even young people are not tech savvy. Don't be afraid to ask questions when you are a new employee, because the platform and everything will not be mastered overnight. It won't happen immediately. So please ask questions. The administrators of your school will notice who really care to perform their job well. But also, as far as advice to potential K-12 employees, don't think that working from home is just going to be an easy breeze. For this job, it is extra imperative to keep your standards high and to keep your integrity high. It's more important in the virtual world because you lose some impact in the face-to-face. Yes, you do. But when you keep those standards high, when you keep that integrity high, answering the emails, making the calls, showing that you care, whether they're doing great or if they're needing help, whenever, when you push yourself to be that way, it really makes a big impact in that. And so the job's not always the easiest because you can keep busy, but it makes it absolutely worth it.
Awesome. Thank you. And since we are almost to our hour, I think we're going to move to our question and answer session. And I did see plenty of questions in the chat. And one that I remembered seeing, hold on, let me scroll through. My mouse is being. Someone was asking about duties or school duties. 1 second.
There are questions about whether you have to live in the state that you want to teach for or that you're certified for.
Yes, if you want to go ahead and answer that, we can start there.
Okay.
I could do that for you. We do ask that you reside in the state you wish to teach here at K12. We do have some leniency, and I want to say some because it's not very often where you can be bordering a state and you can teach for the state that you're bordering. But for the most part, we do require that you live in the state of which you wish to teach at that state.
Shannon, there is a question about teacher observation and evaluations. Can you take a stab on that one?
Absolutely. That was my jam for a long time. We do follow this, each school follows a state regulated evaluation. They do formal evaluations, but I think this is a great moment to talk about the virtual classroom. Your classroom is open to everybody. I mean, people come in all the time, whether it's your administrators, whether it's another teacher, a newer teacher, if you're a veteran teacher. But yeah, there are observations. They could be daily, they could be weekly, they could be monthly. It just depends. I do know that as a new teacher, and when we say new teacher, we don't mean you just started teaching. We mean new virtual teacher, because there's a difference, and there's a big difference in that. That we do put a blanket around you and support you heavily in the beginning stages, which means a lot of observations, but not informal. Not formal, they are informal. They're there to kind of help you grow, help, how to use platforms like Haley was mentioning. But evaluations are formal by your heads of schools, by your principals, and then informal can be in any manner, but they come into your class, and your virtual classes are recorded, and there's links to your recordings. And that's what's kind of great about it, is like Haley mentioned, if you are missing a day, you don't really miss a day, because you can record your class and you can share it out. You are not missing really ever. There's no snow days.
Now I'll add a question for Shannon. So I know sometimes there are teachers, but they may not have had virtual experience before. Can you talk about what that training looks like as far as when they're coming in, like as far as how they can, learn the program or whatnot? How long is that, just in case for somebody that they've always taught in brick and mortar, but they might want to transition to to a virtual setting?
Absolutely, and Haley can probably attest to this as well. Teaching in the virtual setting is not the same as teaching in brick and mortar, but you bring in everything that you're bringing from the brick and mortar and putting it into a virtual setting. We have a new teacher onboard training, which is actually synchronous, which means live, kind of like this platform, where our teacher trainers work directly with new trainers and they support, new teachers, and they directly support them. They assign them, we have asynchronous, we have a huge training platform, K12 training platform that walks alongside them and builds up their abilities as they go along. This is something that, I didn't have, and Stephanie, I'm sure you didn't have 15 years ago. And we've worked extensively to really build that support around these virtual teachers and we make it very simplistic too, in the sense is that, what do you need to know coming in? You know your content. You're a history teacher. You've been doing it for years. We don't need to teach you how to teach history. We need to show you how to use Zoom, Blackboard, how to log into the online school, how to grade, how to use the grade book, how to look at our spreadsheets, how to look at data, those types of things, who to contact. And somebody mentioned, how will I be able to kind of work alongside my colleagues? We have a great PLC format where, people from all over the country get together and talk about their practice. We have a lesson board where everybody posts their lessons. So, okay, I'm teaching this today and in this subject, in this grade band, and you can go and you can grab from somebody who's already an expert, or you can watch videos, 5-minute clips of a virtual teacher doing something well and learn how to kind of work in this virtual environment. So the support is there, it's heavy, and we will not leave you in the dust. I mean, you have all the things and resources you're going to need.
Awesome, thank you. I know that's one of the questions when I travel and talk to people that come up and they're interested, like, I've been teaching, but how does that look like? Just to give them, I guess, a vantage point. So when they arrive, they don't feel like, I don't know what I'm doing in the house. Who's going to reach out to me? So we're very hands-on and making sure that you know what you're going to be getting into when you start your virtual process. You're not an island by yourself. Like, we have plenty of people that are aware and to help you if you need it. So like you said earlier, make sure you continue to ask questions and reach out for the support that you need. Let's check on some more questions in the chat box.
So Regina asked, what programs or websites or what do you use to support student learning? Haley, I thought I would kick that over to you.
Okay. Well, because I teach for a high school, we do use a partnership with USA Test Prep. Now, we heavily use it because we can sync like little quizzes and assessments with the Texas standards. The students go in and they take a weekly quiz or an assessment, and we can use that data to see how they're doing on certain standards in Texas, whether they be academic based or skills based. And weekly, we do update the data chart. We just download and import, and we can see, are we improving? Are we all struggling? What's going on? And so we do use USA Test Prep as an outside source to kind of gauge how are they doing independently. Yet do have things inside the course, notes, lessons, all of that kind of a thing. But because the students can pull it up right there in front of them and use it while they're working on assignments, I don't know if what they've achieved is necessarily from true accomplishment, or were they just able to kind of figure it out sometimes. But I love that I can use SafeTube. If you don't know about SafeTube, you need to learn about SafeTube. If you ever want to use like a YouTube clip or something, but you're afraid of the ads that might pop up or the side panel, what's on there, you can take a link from YouTube and you can put it into SafeTube, and it will create a brand new link so you can control what's viewed. You can use that and incorporate that into your classroom. You can create breakout rooms and do like a gallery walk where the students get to move themselves around. there are little games I know in USA Test Prep that they can use. It's really fun sometimes to kind of screencast with the kids and to play like group games with USA Test Prep. PowerPoint has some amazing features where I know last practices, which is next week, I learned how to make a digital like foldable. And so, you know, as the kids click on certain squares or shapes or whatever questions, it's just like having a foldable flick book where they can go to information and you can turn that into a project, and you can turn PowerPoint Jeopardy game and to a Who Wants to Be a Millionaire game. And it's great to put it in there for all that interactivity. But, you know, again, I am also not stifled. I can bring in reading selections or portions of reading selections. I have found some really great websites. When English one, where at the end of a reading selection, they kind of have like their own little embedded quiz, and the kids would use it and they would see how well they were doing. And even though it was a quiz, I wasn't taking it as a grade, but the kids were challenging themselves because it was free to put in there and it was easy to use.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, I saw someone asking, can someone talk about what a typical day is like? And I think they said for elementary school teacher, but if you could just talk on what a typical school day looks like for a virtual classroom.
For me to answer that?
If you or Shannon, if you have any insight that you want to give.
Can you guys hear me? I'm having some mic problems.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. I turned my video off just in case.
No, that's fine.
Well, and somebody asked about South Carolina specifically, and we have 2 schools here. But a typical day, I mean, you're going to go, schedules vary across the country, 8 to 4 typically a day. But you're going to, you know, sign in, check emails. Your classes might start. You know, depending, math always in the morning for some reason. Well, not for some reason, but for logical reasons. And you'll have lesson planning time. You might have meetings with your grade band level, or you might have it with your subject matter. If you're high school, you're going to have not national meetings, I'm sorry, but school-wide meetings, and then you possibly could have national meetings. For example, this Friday we have something called Promising Practices, where everybody from K12 comes together, and it starts about 11 Eastern Standard Time and ends 6 o'clock. And it's all these different professional development opportunities. And it's from, you know, the knowledge is in the room. So it's from, you know, teachers, leaders, counselors, advisors, just great people around the country kind of sharing their knowledge and sharing their wealth. But, you know, your day can be not monotonous, but the same. And then all of a sudden you could have a testing week where you could do in-person testing. You could go on an outing. An outing usually is on a Friday. It just all depends on the week. I love the flexibility of K12 that it doesn't seem the same all the time. You can have different things going on. Also, you're in person with your team, with your whole school. Sometimes they do in-persons, and that varies. I mean, that there is no kind of general answer to that, because it just varies on region, on school, and on everything. But you do get to interact with your peers, which is nice. I mean, you do get those opportunities to see each other, to talk, to build those relationships, and meet your kiddos. I mean, that was my favorite part was in Wisconsin, we'd have outings once a month. We had a jamboree at the end of the year, and it was a graduation jamboree, and we camped. And it was so neat. I know in Wisconsin, so we're probably freezing the whole time, but regardless, it was just so neat to meet. And we had a talent show, and they played guitar and did gymnastics, and you know, it's just every day is different and unique. Talking to your parents, talking to your families, that's a definite, you know, building relationships every day is a big part of it. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a picture.
Awesome. Let's see what other Now, I know someone asked as well for like a school counselor. Um, would that still kind of mimic or be a little bit different for their day? Or because I know it's still between, you still have work within the hours of, is it 8 to 4? Is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's random. And I don't know if there's another counselor in here as far as 8 to 5, 7 to 5. I mean, it just depends on the school and what they set it. I feel like your tasks will be different. As far as the teacher, you're working with those kiddos, you are teaching. I don't want to, you are teaching with your kids. In the elementary classroom, that depends on the school too, how many kids. The beauty of our system is that you can reach more than you could in a traditional, brick and mortar. And Haley can probably attest to sizes, but it all depends on the school. Some schools have 7,000 kids, some schools have 700. So it just depends. But as far as like a counselor position, you're gonna, have different things are gonna look different. Tasks are gonna look different. But teachers, you are teaching. Go ahead, Haley. I think you have something to add.
No, the class size it's completely different. It really is. Virtual with K12, first of all, is more popular in some states more than others. It does. It really does come down to school size, a lot of it. And not only that, but also the instructional schedule. Sometimes tested subjects get a little more attention than non-tested subjects do. And again, that's different for state. Personally, right now, I think the last time I looked at my roster, I had 271 students. And considering in a brick and mortar school, I was still usually topping out about, roughly around 200. It's more students. Don't get me wrong. It's more. But what's great about this is that the kids who are self-motivated, I mean, they are really self-motivated, and I don't have to always be checking up on them all the time. So out of my 271 kids, it's 271 do not need my individual attention all the time. And I do have them broken up. They are broken up into different instructional classes. So I'm not having all 271 kids at one time. But there are different classes where they have a limitation of a ratio of 30-1 just for that instructional time. Now, those teachers though are teaching more times a day. It's different for every state and for every school. And not only that, flexibility, I think, is the key word. You can start out with something and hey, it might not work out. And so the instructional schedule might change as the life and the population of your school changes as well.
Awesome. Now, I know we have a few minutes left, but I wanted to talk about, someone asked about how does special education work? If we could kind of touch on that before we wrap up, because I know that's a big question that a lot of people ask as well.
My experience with special ed, I mean, it's similar. It's all state mandated, obviously. So you have to follow state laws. We do have a special education teacher. We have a special education leads. We have program managers. It is a big part of our school system. We support a lot of students, and it's also worded different. Some it's special ed, some it's ES. There's different terms for it all. But yeah, so the support is similar. We use contracted people for some services for special education, but we have IEP meetings. We have them virtually and sometimes in person. I've been to in-person ones as well. We have, and we also have a lot of information. I feel like our hands as teachers, as general ed teachers, and Haley, maybe you can talk on this, you have more information than maybe you did in a brick and mortar. I felt like I knew more, I was informed more because everything's at your fingertips as far as where we store things and how it works. But that's the input I have for special ed.
I love that the platform already provides many accommodation that a student for special education or even 504 services would already need. Of course you have the same meetings and you still go through the same accommodations, see the work, but I love the fact that if a student is needing time, or if they need assisted reading or anything else, the platform already provides that. It's there and the kids know it, and it's great because it gives them a less restrictive environment to be, truly virtual is less restrictive than a brick and mortar classroom. But it also makes them feel more comfortable because they know that it's there. It doesn't single them out. The teacher's not having to give them something different, and even then everything's completely individualized. They can only see their account anyway. And so there is no stigma with it. And I love the fact that the accommodations most of them are already built into the platform. It's great for the student. It's great for the teacher. It's great for the families. And it takes a lot of that worry and that pressure off. And then if they have extra needs, we can spend more time on their extra needs.
Awesome. Thank you. So since it's almost time for us to go, I want to thank all of our speakers for tuning in today and answering all of our questions that we had. I want to make sure you stay on the lookout for next month, which is March, for our March 25th webinar. That's the date. So make sure you lock that in your calendars. But I want to thank you, Haley. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Sean, for giving us all your insight today. I really, really appreciate each and every one of you. Also, if you are wanting to stay connected to us, hear more about our webinars, if you want to read our newsletter that we put out, please follow us on at K12 Careers. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we try to post a few times each week. But yes, stay connected so you can hear about all the different things that is going on at K12 and just learn more about us. But again, I want to thank everyone for coming. I know we answered a lot of questions. If you think of anything that we may not have been able to cover today, feel free to send us an email and I can put it in the chat at talentteam at k12.com, and we will make sure to answer you. And again, we will be sending out this recording of this event later this week of our Zoom, so you can watch this at a later time. But again, I want to thank you all for tuning into Webinar Wednesdays. I am your host, Andrea Wilson, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.